We would like to welcome you all to our 5th annual Brighter Futures Luncheon, Gone Virtual. I'm Patty Buckland, and I'm so pleased to be on the event committee once again for this very special event. We as a committee are very proud to support Laura's House and all of the important work that they do to assist individuals affected by domestic violence and help break the cycle once and for all. To get the event started, we have a signature drink that Harley Laguna Beach has prepared to align with the theme of our event. Take a look.
I'm Anissa. I work at Harley's in Laguna Beach, and I'm a bartender here. So the mocktail that we created today is a butterfly pea lemonade. It's super easy to make, and it's an amazing cocktail because it has the butterfly pea in it. The butterfly pea is a great herb. It's transformative, much like the butterfly. It starts off blue, and as you add anything acidic to it, it turns magenta because it changes the pH level of the butterfly pea. So the first step in making this mocktail is we're going to have to make a butterfly pea simple syrup. It's going to be 2 parts water, 1 part sugar, and 2 tea bags of the butterfly pea flower tea. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my 1 cup of sugar, so it's 2 cups water, 1 cup sugar. I'm just going to stir in the sugar until it's fully dissolved. Something I love about Laura's House is the butterfly representation of the logo, and that's because the butterfly starts off as one thing and transforms into something beautiful and eye-catching and mystical. And that's something about the butterfly pea that I love too, is it starts off this deep blue, and as you add the acid into it, it transforms into this beautiful purple color. The next step is you're going to take 1 ounce of pure lemon juice and just pour it in the glass. Okay. Next step is I'm going to add some ice. Okay. Now you're going to take 2 ounces of your butterfly pea simple syrup that we just made. Now you have this beautiful color, and I recommend topping it off with soda or Sprite. You can always make this sweeter by adding more sugar to your simple syrup. There you go. And you have your beautiful butterfly pea lemonade mocktail. You can also add gin or vodka, and make sure you stir it up before drinking it. That's it.
Thank you, Nisa and Chef Greg Daniels of Harley Laguna Beach for being with us today. I also want to extend a very special thank you to our sponsors and table hosts today for their support, and all of you who have chosen to attend this afternoon. Your tremendous generosity and flexibility as we had to move this event to a virtual platform is most appreciated. Your contributions have contributed greatly to the success of this year's event. A big thanks also goes out to our designer partners for inspiring us with your creativity. Although we couldn't be together in person to experience these beautiful creations, we are pleased to share and feature some of the beautiful designs submitted for all of us to enjoy from afar. Today's event will feature a very special panel of experts whom will be with us to lead in a very thought-provoking discussion entitled, What Parents Need to Know. It is our hope that our discussion provides you with useful information and inspires you in some way to continue to support our youth in engaging in healthy relationships so that we may prevent violence through education and advocacy. Lastly, we have a wonderful auction and opportunity drawing, so please continue to bid on those exclusive items. The auction will close at the conclusion of our event. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the CEO and Executive Director of Laura's House, Margaret Baisden.
We are so glad you could all join us for our 5th annual Laura's House Brighter Futures event. Special thanks to Anne McPherson, our honorary chair this year, as well as our event committee, Patty Buckland, Stacey Fournier, Melissa Olson and Casey Wolleen, for working so diligently to bring this event to life in this new virtual format. We're happy to see you all and appreciate that you are taking your time to be with us. Our Brighter Futures Luncheon was started 5 years ago to gather in a beautiful setting, enjoy a special lunch, and most importantly to share some things with you that maybe you didn't know, and to give you some insight into what many of our young people, as well as adults, are encountering when in unhealthy relationships, and how you can help and be empowered with the knowledge to be an advocate. Prevention and education is paramount to Laura's House. We spend a lot of time in the community educating youth and adults about what domestic violence is and how to prevent it. One of the ways we're doing this is by teaching our youth about violence prevention and giving them important information to help them make healthy relationship choices which will affect them for the rest of their lives. Do you know that in a recent study that we conducted with Chapman University, 2/3 of high school students in Orange County reported that they had experienced at least one form of abuse or harmful behavior. That's more than the national average. As you can see on the screens, our HEART program has reached over 90 schools here in Orange County and Los Angeles, and come August, we'll be launching our newest facilitators training to make our HEART training and curriculum accessible to administrators all over the world. Our HEART program is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year, and we invite you to take a look at some of our significant milestones. We hope you feel inspired by what you hear today, and that you will think of ways you can join us as we work towards ending domestic violence in our communities. You are amongst our strongest advocates, and if you can have the conversation and share the powerful message that domestic violence is not acceptable in our communities, you'll be doing a great service to future generations. It's with great pleasure that I welcome our moderator this afternoon, Veronica Stevens. Veronica is Laura's House Community Education Specialist and has contributed significantly to our effort to expand our reach and outreach even further into the community.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I appreciate the opportunity, and it is such an honor to be able to present to our listeners and viewers today an exquisite panel of experts. And just as you were informed, we are going to be covering the topic of what every parent needs to know. If we were to really touch base on this, we would be here for days. But we have highlighted some specific issues that we feel are really pertinent to our youth here in Orange County. So we're going to be talking about bullying, about tech abuse, human trafficking, and unhealthy or harmful behaviors that we are witnessing and experiencing with our teens here in Orange County. Now, we welcome you to get involved. If you just look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a chat box. If you click on it, it will pop up. It might be at the top. It just kind of depends on how your computer configured this. You can type any questions you have into that chat box, and then we'll get as many as we possibly can at the end of their presentations. We are also live streaming on our YouTube channel. For anyone who is experiencing this event via YouTube, feel free to post your questions in the comment section. And we have someone there that will bat them my way, and we'll incorporate, like I said, just as many as we possibly can. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce all of our panelists at the beginning, and then they will just be piggybacking off each other as their presentations load. And then at the end, like I said, pulling in all the questions that we get from chat for the panelists. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce who we have presenting today. Our first panelist is Adam Dodge. He is the CEO of EndTab. He's going to be touching on tech abuse in teens. As the founder of EndTab, Adam is dedicated to addressing the existing and future threats posed by technology to victims of gender-based violence. He has written extensively on technology-enabled abuse, non-consensual pornography, and created the first resource guide for victims of non-consensual deepfake pornography. Adam gives presentations to victims serving organizations around the world. Our next presenter is Sheriff Don Barnes. He is the Orange County Sheriff Coroner. He will be touching on what law enforcement sees on campuses and in the field regarding unhealthy relationships with our teenagers. Sheriff Don Barnes was elected the 13th Sheriff Coroner for Orange County in November 2018. He began his law enforcement career with the Orange County Sheriff's Department in 1989. As Sheriff Don Barnes is leading initiatives aimed at reducing the prevalence of drugs in our neighborhoods, enhancing school safety, mitigating the impacts of homelessness, and advocating for the restoration of accountability to our criminal justice system. Sheriff Barnes strongly believes that members of law enforcement must be engaged with the community they serve. Our third presenter is Dr. Adela Cruz. She is the coordinator of mental health for the Anaheim Union High School District. She's going to be touching base on what they are seeing in their school district regarding the unhealthy relationships with teens. Dr. Cruz has over 25 years of experience in working in the social services and behavioral health fields. She currently works for the Anaheim Union High School District and serves as the coordinator for the school mental health, homeless education, and foster youth programs. She has worked for the Orange County Department of Social Services in the private sector as a psychotherapist and is currently involved in the Be Well OC Foundation and its community efforts to improve mental health services and crisis response and suicide prevention. The fourth panelist will be myself. I'm going to be the one that's bringing in the human trafficking component. I have over 10 years experience in this and developed the first curriculum that was introduced into many of the Orange County as well as Riverside, San Bernardino schools. And was able to bring that also on into Laura's house. So I'll be touching base with that today. And then our last presenter is Jennifer Pont. She is with Laura's house as the Prevention Education Manager. For the last 15 years, Jennifer has implemented community outreach and education programs internationally and domestically, and a highly sought after speaker and lecturer. Starting July 1st, Jennifer will begin her services as a member of the Board of Directors on the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. So as you can see, we have a power-packed panel. And without further delay, Adam, I welcome you to share your first presentation.
Great. Thank you, Veronica. I'm really excited to be here. I have very close connection with Laura's house and with this event, and excited to talk with you all a little bit about technology-enabled abuse and its effect on teens. And it's, I think, something that we don't really think of top of mind when we're talking about this issue, because Well, the reality is technology can be a bit invisible in our lives. It touches all aspects of our life. Case in point, we're using it today to attend this conference. However, it can also be misused to cause harm. And we're seeing that nationwide, and it's particularly spiking during quarantine and the coronavirus self-distancing measures, because folks are being ushered online. And as we know, victims of domestic violence are harmed where they are. And right now where they are is online. And the statistics are pretty compelling. So as you can see from this slide here, technology-enabled domestic violence is spiking, and it's not really going anywhere. The National Network to End Domestic Violence reports that reports that organizations, 97% of organizations serving domestic violence survivors indicate perpetrators use technology to abuse. The National Network the National Domestic Violence Hotline reported a 101% increase in digital abuse calls last year. 81% of US adults are online daily, and I'm pretty sure that has gone up recently. And 94% of adults ages 18 to 49 own a smartphone. So everybody is using technology, so it makes sense that that's where they're going to be harmed. And it also signals that we need to take digital safety more seriously, particularly when it comes to unhealthy relationships and domestic violence. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And the slides, it's not required is not meant to be crossed out here, but for victims, technology is required to survive and thrive. This is something that I talk about a lot in my presentations and my trainings, because there we go. So it's something that I talk about a lot in my trainings, because we do everything through our devices. I mean, for a lot of folks, what's the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning? We access this, and that creates a sort of a pattern for the rest of the day where we're interacting with technology. And if a survivor or someone who's in an unhealthy relationship is unable to access or benefit from their technology, then they're not able to function, they're not able to survive or thrive in today's society. We use our technology to learn, to work, to connect with our communities, to get our news, to stream our entertainment. We use it for most things these days. And if you can't access it, or for survivors trying to rebuild their lives without it, it's like trying to navigate the world with one or two arms tied behind your back. So it's something that I really want us to keep top of mind. And so let's go ahead and to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about what I mean by digital safety. So for me, digital safety is comprised of three components. The first at the top here is existence, that an individual should be able to exist online without limitation or fear. Second, here on the right, access. They should be able to access technology freely to benefit from it. And third, they should have control. They should have control over their devices, accounts, and apps. And if you're talking to a teen, or really anyone about their safety and their digital safety, walk them through these three pillars. And if they're not able to exist online, access their technology, and have control over technology, then that could be a sign that there's something going on there, that there's maybe some unhealthy behaviors in a relationship, or there's abuse going on, because we should all meet these three criteria. And if we're not, that really should be a red flag that maybe the person's digital safety might be compromised. And I don't have a slide for this, but one of the things that I try to talk to folks about is thinking about safety in terms of, we're very good about, especially at Laura's House, is very good about prioritizing physical safety and emotional safety. But digital safety is really something I think we need to add to that, to those two, because it's just so integral to our lives, and it's so critical to rebuilding one's life after suffering any kind of abuse or domestic violence. And so I'd like to do a little exercise with you all right now. If you have an iPhone, please go ahead and grab it really quickly here. And I'm going to walk you through a little exercise. We can go to the next slide about that I think hopefully will give you a sense of what it's like to have your information or your device used against you. It's also something that's kind of fun to do with folks, family and friends and things like that to get to sort of, it's a bit eye-opening. So if you have an iPhone, and I'm gonna, in the next slide, I'm gonna show all non-iPhone users kind of what this looks like. But if you have an iPhone, go ahead and pull it out and hit the settings icon. And I'm gonna do it with you. So if you tap the settings icon and go ahead and scroll down until you see the privacy button. The privacy button is gonna be a little white hand and a blue square. And go ahead and tap that. And once you've done that, go ahead and hit location services right at the top. It's on the privacy page, location services. And then I want you to scroll all the way down till you see system services. And when you see system services, go ahead and tap system services. And finally, we're going to scroll down on this page, and this shows you how hard it is to access this and how easy it would be to overlook this. Scroll down until you see significant locations, and that's where we want to be. Go ahead and tap significant locations, and it's going to prompt for a Face ID or a thumbprint or a passcode. And if significant location's on your phone, and let's go ahead and advance the next slide, please. You will see the following, which on the left-hand side here is the significant locations city list. And you can see here there's a bunch of cities listed: Marina del Rey, Los Angeles, Culver City, etc. Well, if I click Marina del Rey, that takes us to the center screen, and it shows that it's a Trader Joe's. 3 visits between March 9th and April 27th, 2020. When you click the Trader Joe's there, it takes you to the right screen, the far right screen, which shows each visit that was made there, how much time was spent there, and how the person arrived there via, in this case, via a 7-minute drive. The reason that now this is just on, and it allows Apple to collect information to improve functionality in maps and things like that. But as you can imagine, this is tracking everywhere you go, and in an unhealthy relationship, if somebody wanted to know, hey, where were you, or why did it take you so long to get home, or why were you home from work late, this is a way they can use a victim or an individual's technology against them to exert power and control over them. This is better in many cases than having a private investigator, and it's turned on by default on our phones, and it took, 5, maybe 6 steps to get to this point. So it's not very intuitive or easy to find. And yet, if somebody wanted to misuse this technology, it is a very powerful way to track someone's location and control them. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of insight into the ways in which our technology can be misused to harm us and can show up in unhealthy relationships. We refer to it as tech-enabled abusive behaviors. And it's something that we really need to be able to keep an eye on and be comfortable talking about, because we all have smartphones, we all have email, and we use computers and all these different things. And so keeping ourselves safe and ensuring that digital safety is, the 3 pillars of digital safety are met, is really important. So I hope that was helpful for you all. Thank you again so much for having me. And yeah, I look forward to answering any questions you have at the end.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Adam. That's a great presentation. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay? Veronica, just give me a thumbs up, I'll know. There I am. Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very involved in Laura's House for many reasons. And obviously in my profession, I've had the opportunity to intervene, not only through people who are being harmed through domestic violence, but also through intervention programs with our kids on school campuses, through our juvenile diversion programs and others. So this is going to be a real quick summary of what we see, at least what I've seen over time, and I think confirmed by many of the deputies who still work for me. I'll try to go quick. If we can go to the next slide, please. First, let me tell you about some of the resources that we do have in the Sheriff's Department and why it is important, in my opinion, to continue these. If you hear some of the recent rhetoric that's going around about defunding police, and especially on school campuses, these are the programs that are being argued against to remove off of our campuses. And I do not agree with that. I think these are all very critical to have for all the reasons I'm going to share with you. And some of the other backbone behind the scenes investigative services that we have in place as well. So we do have school resource officers, and those are deputy sheriffs who are on each of our 16 high school campuses that we patrol within the Sheriff's Department. Contrary to what you might believe, those are actually paid for by the cities. The school districts do not pay those. So if you live in a city like Mission Viejo, who pays for 6 school resource officers to be on their campus, please thank them for that, because without that funding by their city councils, those deputies aren't on those campuses. And we have those throughout Orange County, as I said. There are presence there. I think one of the most important components of education is to be able to be in a safe environment on school campuses, and that's created in several different aspects. We have an anti-bullying campaign. We are working through Laura's House on a program called Mankind, which is how to grow young men into responsible adults. That's been in its infancy, and we're getting that hopefully up and running in the next year. We do have our SMART team. That's a school mobile assessment resource team, which is a statewide recognized best practice. It's been in place since the year 2000. If you want to make school campuses safe, there are times when we have kids making poor decisions, and we've taken numerous weapons off of campuses. We've taken bomb-making material out of kids' rooms. This group does all the investigations on school campuses of crimes. So it's a very consistent presence on our school campuses. The school resource officer, for example, develops relationships with the students, and they start to see those telltale signs that they can bring to either the attention of the school or through our diversion program through Pepperdine University that's unique to the Sheriff's Department. And it's not intended to get kids in trouble or to enter them into the juvenile justice system. It's actually designed to divert them away from that. So they have marriage family therapists on a sliding scale from no cost up to a nominal cost to help treat these kids. And they can go through either an arrest through the Sheriff's Department, from our school resource officers, or from the faculty at the school, or even by parents just using that resource to go in and get some of these services for them. Adam alluded to some of the challenges we have in technology, and probably one of the biggest issues we still face are sexting. Kids, inappropriate relationships using their phones, either that are provocative in nature of the text, or by sending images of themselves to each other that are inappropriate. And what we try to tell these kids, obviously it's not appropriate, it's poor decisions they're making. But also, once that image is out there, it's never coming back. It's out there forever. So we try to educate them on that. Adam alluded to the presence of pornography and the access to it, and it's easily accessed by young adults under the age of 18. And it's not only young men, young women are looking at these as well, and it gives them a false impression of what men expect of women, which I think is disgusting. But also it almost desensitizes them and sets these expectations of what they need to do to have a healthy relationship with men. I'm going to cover something in the end that I will recommend. So those are some of the things we're seeing in our school trends. Next slide, please. As far as the digital age that was just discussed through Adam, we already talked about that, but here's the scary part of where we are today. And I'm going to use some terms you may or may not heard of before. Grooming is obviously people developing relationships. And on a digital platform, you don't know who that person is that you're talking to on the other end. They'll oftentimes present themselves to be another school-age kid or somebody else, but they're not. They're predators that are looking for these emotional bonds with children. And they're able to operate in this space undetected. And there's if you've heard of the dark web that exists, the dark web is layered underneath our normal web environment. And in that, people can mask their identities. They can do narcotics trafficking. They do human trafficking. In fact, predators and some of the pedophiles that have child pornography, it's so layered behind the dark web that the term going dark means encrypted, end-to-end encryption on electronic devices. It means you can't break into those electronic devices like iPhones. They're openly sharing child pornography and actually encouraging each other in how they can be successful in luring and developing relationships with your children, which is frightening. So we've been advocating against the dark web and also end-to-end encryption. To let you know how difficult this is, if you remember a few years ago, we had the Blaze Bernstein homicide in Sheriff's jurisdiction in Lake Forest. we had both the phone of the victim and the suspect. And we went to Apple and asked them if they would help us open those phones, and they rejected it. They said they would not. We worked with the FBI, and over the course of probably about 6 weeks, we're able to break into those phones and get all the evidence out of those phones that made it an enhanced hate crime against Blaze Bernstein. Apple had the audacity, once we did that, to ask us how we did it, which of course we weren't going to tell them. We don't want to be able to look at those these things illegally. We want an illegal way to get in for through a search warrant to be able to access those things. So that's where what we're seeing. And next slide, please, Veronica. I'm going quick because I know that we are probably a little bit behind time. Drug trends that we're seeing as well. So if you look at the drug trends, and this is important because in California, there's been a decriminalization effort in the legislature to minimize drug activity. Marijuana, by everybody's impression, is now legal. It's not legal, it's been decriminalized in California from a federal standard. So we're seeing increased marijuana use. The marijuana THC level, which is the intoxicant marijuana, is through the roof. It's not your parents' marijuana from the Cheech and Chong era. This will get people so high that they start acting in an impaired way that they do really awful things. And there's new evidence out that frequent, persistent use of high THC level marijuana 30 times actually is causing psychosis in young children. And your kids have access to this through people who are 18 legally buying it and routinely sharing it with their classmates in high school. We're seeing alcohol increase. The thing that scares me the most are some of the narcotic analgesics like OxyContin that were locked down through the law, but also now being used, supplemented through fentanyl and other synthetic opioids. Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin, and it's less expensive to get. And we've seen the trafficking of that go up exponentially from south of the border. I say these because these are gateway drugs, but more importantly, when we have young women, and men too, but mostly young women, start to experiment and get addicted to narcotics, it makes them extremely vulnerable to being abused by either men for sex trade or through other means. And it most definitely affects their self-esteem. So if I go to the final slide, please. I know it went real quick, but I do want to leave this with you, and this is what I think is most important. You've heard the phrase, it takes a village. When I grew up many years ago, I wasn't just raised by my mother, I was raised by all the mothers on the block. So we've got to get over that stigma of those aren't my kids. We got to look at every kid, including your young daughters and young sons' friends, as the opportunity to positively influence them and hold them accountable, especially with inappropriate behavior that you may see. These are the next two things I'm going to talk to you about. What I did with my daughter. My daughter is now 24, but she wasn't a bad kid, but I wanted to make sure she stayed that way. And I called her in my home one day and said, we're going to do a random drug test. And she bawled, she cried, she went, she tested it, seven panel test, came back clean. And I looked at her, I told her I loved her, and I said, you have now the best excuse for the rest of your high school career to say, I cannot she has this luxury. You know who my dad is, right? Well, he drug tests me. And she used that as her out for her entire high school career, which I think is a great way to give your kids that permission to decline that social pressure of drug use. The other thing she did, and probably does not know to this day, is that we put on her laptop and phone software that we saw everything she did. And it's legal. The Fourth Amendment does not apply to parents, just so you know. That's a legal search and seizure for government. It does not apply to parents. Get in your kids' stuff. Go through their room, go through their pockets, go through their closet, do everything. Look what they have in their backpack. You'll learn a lot about your children. But every night I would get home, and when my daughter went to bed, I would scroll through a site that pulled up everything she did by keywords, and I could see what she was doing on her phone. And I was very pleased with the decision she was making because I saw in the first person. We do have the ability to, on your school campuses, at least in sheriff's jurisdiction, text a tip, and also in other ways where they can bring information anonymously to the school resource officer that they can act on. Things like Jimmy has a gun in his locker, or there's drugs in something, so we can intervene appropriately and make sure we keep them safe. And I want to share one quick thing, and this is, I think, specific to Laura's house, about a conversation I had with my daughter many years ago. She'd gone to college, come back, and she was having a breakup with her boyfriend. And he was breaking up with her, didn't know what he wanted. And after about a week or so, I had a conversation with her, and real quick. And I think this is important, especially for dads with their daughters. I asked her what was going on with her and Ryan, and she said, I don't know. In her words, Ryan doesn't know what he wants. And I said, well, what do you want? And she looked at me and I said, I know this about you. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny. There should be a line of young men at the door begging to take you on a date, but they think they're God's gift to young women, and they don't see that in themselves either. But I said, I do know this. How you handle this situation will determine how you're willing to be treated by men for the rest of your life. So what do you want? And I saw in that moment this empowerment of my daughter, knowing that she has the ability to make these decisions about who she dates, when, how she's treated. And he came over that day and she said, thanks, I'm breaking up with you, and walked into the door, and it worked out beautifully for her. She got engaged 2 weeks ago to the man she should have been with a long time. They've been together years. He treats her like every father would want their daughter to be treated. So just the power of positive influence that we have among our kids cannot be overstated. Please don't be a friend to your children, be a parent. There's a difference. And I'll stick around for questions. I want to thank Laura's House for all the great work they do. And this is a phenomenal organization. If there's ever something you need to get behind, to be that stopgap and breaking the cycle of abuse, Laura's House is one of the best organizations to support. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, transitioning here. Great. So I hope you're all doing well. Again, I'm Adela Cruz, and I'm with the Anaheim Union High School District. I hope you find this interesting and relevant. So far, what I've heard, I've loved everything I've heard and agree with everything that's been said so far. So next slide, please. Thank you. So I'd have to agree with Sheriff Barnes that it really does take a village to raise a child. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what's happening in schools, the importance of increasing mental health literacy in organizations, and then really highlight the importance of relationships with our children and youth, and why in today's world of social media and technology, it matters even more so. So I think that we, those of us who care about the well-being of our children, need to consider this concept of a village and all of these systems that play a role in how they're doing, paired with everything that's happening in our awareness in social media and technology. Next slide, please. Just to give you some data elements of what are some of the things that we are seeing. And what we know about mental illness, 1 in 5 youth will develop a mental health problem. More than 50% of lifetime cases of mental illness begin in adolescence. There's a huge delay in treatment from the onset of mental health problems. And what we know today is suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people. Mental illness, of course, impacts everything in terms of how kids perform in schools. And what we're seeing, the latest research is telling us that 70% of kids who end up in the juvenile justice systems have a mental illness. Next slide, please. So what is happening in schools? And of course that in schools, the urgency for school districts is that we want to obviously increase graduation rates, prevent dropout rates, reduce behavior problems. But when we pair behavioral health care with the educational system, and we are at schools, these are the kinds of things that we're seeing. We're seeing the importance of prevention and early intervention when it comes to mental illness, and what are we doing to kind of mitigate the onset of mental illness. We see a lot of suicidality. Just today, just to give you an example, today I received an email of a student who attempted suicide last night, and trying to follow up with that student and their family. The students that we are seeing in our district, just to give you a little bit about what we're doing, we have currently 15 social workers in our school district. We are a junior high and high school district, about 30,000 kids, 3,000 employees. And on a yearly basis, we receive about 30,000 students who are coming to us for mental health services. the underlying issues that we're seeing, a lot of it is related to trauma. A lot of it is related to abuse and violence. And when we get them through their referral process, we have a child who's already presenting symptoms because we missed early intervention and prevention. One of the things that is central to everything that we're doing with our kids and within the school system is the relationship that they have with the parents, and how important that relationship is. And I do workshops on a yearly basis on helping parents understand the developmental phases of human development in general, helping them understand different issues in mental health. And when I talk to parents almost on a daily basis, the focus is always on the relationship and how, especially in the teenage years, the distancing of our relationship with our kids. I have 2 teenagers, and through examples of what I've gone through with my own kids and examples that I've seen in the school, we always talk about the importance of all of the things that are happening with our kids and how important it is for parents, especially parents of teenagers, to stay engaged, to focus on that relationship. Even though kids naturally want to be with their friends, they want to be more independent, they want to take more risks. We're seeing an increase in, substance abuse with the legalization of marijuana. We're seeing an increase. That's a huge issue for us as school district employees. We're seeing an increase in homelessness and, of course, and kids entering the foster care system. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about youth, one of the things that we do in our prevention efforts is helping not just school staff, but parents as well, and looking at youth through a mental health continuum. That there's importance in building mental health and making sure the kids are developing in a healthy way, and what does that look like? And then there's importance of making sure that we're looking at school districts as primary care settings for kids who already have a mental illness. Every single part of a mental health continuum involves parents, and the focus is the relationship that kids have with their parents and families and caretakers. When we are working with with kids, the first things that we do is reach out to parents and making sure that they come on board and we work with them. I can tell you right now that, and in having conversations with my own kids about social media and technology, what we are seeing is that social media and technology can be or is a surrogate parent for our kids. So when we're not focusing our energy and maintaining that relationship with our teens, they're receiving information, oftentimes unhealthy information, through social media and technology. And we are seeing how that has made it more difficult for kids to have healthy relationships. We see a lot of violence between kids. We see a lot of sexualized behaviors between kids that they think is normal and healthy, and it really isn't. We see an increase in abuse. We see a lot of kids who are putting themselves out there, and the sexting that was brought up, and then not realizing the impact that that's going to have. When we get the kids in our mental health unit and we dig deeper, we see that years down the line, had we come in and put more prevention efforts in place, we could have prevented a lot of the things that we're seeing, or the numbers that we're seeing with kids who are suicidal, kids who are in the foster care system, kids who are developing severe mental illness like anxiety and depression. Next slide, please. So again, we do parenting workshops throughout the year, and our focus is on helping parents understand what healthy development looks like, and the importance of the relationships. CDC has done a lot of research with youth, and they have longitudinal studies and followed kids up until their mid-20s. And the most important factor for kids that is that relationship they have with their primary caretakers. We see it every day. And oftentimes parents, because there is no manual on how to raise your kids, there is no manual on understanding human development, we see that that's the gap that we're trying to fill and helping parents reestablish that relationship with the parents and helping parents understand how important it is for them to check in with the kids, how important it is for them to understand that they have the right to search their kids' things and belongings, how important it is for parents to understand how they have the right to do drug testing, that they should take their children to get mental health services. I added on here some short videos for you to enjoy at pleasure. I added some resources in terms of understanding healthy relationship. The Search Institute has done years and years of research on healthy development, and they have great information on what a healthy relationship looks like, including how to build that, including information from the CDC on what adolescent connectedness and healthy relationships look like through the CDC. Next slide. And just as a reminder, the relationship that we have with our children oftentimes serves as a way for us to help kids. When we as school districts, all school districts right now are trying to build mental health services within their systems. As advocates, as parents, as community members, it's important for us to reach out to a school district and ask them, what are they doing to build children up, to promote healthy development, to give them access to mental health care, to address issues like child abuse, address issues like human trafficking. That's very important. When we're working with our kids, when we reach out to parents, that relationship that you have, that engagement that you have with us really, really matters on the outcomes of whatever services we implement. And it matters even more so on the outcomes of your child, because there have so many influences through social media and technology and just peer pressure. There's just so many things that our kids are dealing with, and it always comes down to that relationship. That's it. Next slide. So again, thank you for having me. I'll be available for questions like everybody else, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I am so excited that I was able to go on the heels of those 3 presentations. I have never been queued up so well in my life. Okay, so we are going to be touching base really quick on human trafficking, specifically here in California, as is Orange County. So the latest data for 2019 is 1,507 reported cases here in California. That makes us the #1 state for human trafficking, as well as we have so many reported cases. We almost have enough cases to be the 2nd and 3rd highest states combined. So not only #1, but we're #1 exponentially. As the next slide is going to show, I'm going to now bring it a little bit closer to us here in Orange County. So the stats that I'm going to give you is for 2017 and 2018. And the reason why I'm giving you those is because the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force actually got a 2-year grant to compile all their statistics. So if they were given that other grant, then I'm assuming it's going to be for 2019 and 2020. So we'll go off of this. 415 human trafficking victims were assisted here in Orange County in that 2-year span. 359 were victims of sex trafficking. It is the predominant trafficking in California, really in the US, as well as 110 of those 415 were sex trafficked victims were minors. And so yes, we had 110 victims that were minors, children who were trafficked right here in Orange County. And 106 of them were female victims of that 110. Now, those statistics are startling, but just to really emphasize the vast nature of this crimes, Department of Justice and FBI has said that this is the #1 growing criminal enterprise in the US, and only 1% of victims are ever rescued. So when we look at that 415, understand that is only 1% of the other 99% that are completely off of our radar. Now, I don't say this to scare you or to shock you. I'm doing it because we really need to understand what our children are up against here in Orange County and really across the US. But in Orange County, it has been found by research studies that a girl sells for twice as much in Orange County as it does in any other county in California. We are considered a hotbed here. And the number one way that girls are trafficked is using social media, which is why I love so much that Adam did such a great job, as well as Sheriff Barnes going in and saying, listen, get into your kids' stuff. When it comes to social media, what it looks like typically is they will set up that fictitious account. They will look as though they are a very attractive high school student, young male, or maybe even young male college student, when in fact it's probably some 45-year-old dude sitting behind that computer. But they create these fictitious profiles and then ping our children and compliment them. And the number one thing they need to do is to get them into that private messaging, so that direct messaging. And that's where the grooming takes place. So it happens fast, it happens furious. It is the number one way. However, the reason, and if you're kind of confused, is how does this relate to intimate partner violence, and why is Laura's House bringing this to bear? Well, that's because part of the Healthy Youth Act that was passed in California, which mandates healthy relationship training in our classrooms, it also mandated human trafficking presentations. And the reason why it did that is the majority of the victims were recruited by a boyfriend or a friend. And so it is so important that we get these presentations into our schools. It piggybacks beautifully on our heart presentation. And that brings me to the last slide is, yes, we do have presentations. And do presentations save lives? 1,000%. Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years. And when I got into a school into Temecula, one of the administrators sat in every single time. And she thought it was kind of a waste of time that her students were hearing this, because who would actually be trafficked, but it couldn't hurt them. Only to call me about a year later, she found out that her niece actually exhibited all the red flags. They then confiscated her phone, and indeed she was a trafficked victim. And it was a very dark web that she was in. Bring it a little closer to home, in Orange County, we had a graduate of San Clemente High School who went to San Marcos. She was arrested on human trafficking charges. She had trafficked a 14-year-old girl. And then in Tesoro High School, I was brought into a case there as well. Does it impact Laura's House? Well, I've been given the 40-hour training, 2 hours of that 40-hour training on the advocacy that Laura House provide. Just this past training, I did a 2-hour training between intimate partner violence and human trafficking. One of the participants took notes. One of her co-workers were talking about her granddaughter, and she said, if I had to check boxes of the red flags, she exhibited every red flag. What should I do? I gave her the resources, and indeed that granddaughter was being trafficked, and the granddaughter was saved, and the trafficker was arrested, and that happened just 3 months ago. So it's happening here. The curriculum needs to get into our schools. And with that, I'm going to bring in Jennifer to talk about our HEART program, because truly our human trafficking and dating violence just piggybacks off of this program here.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can all see me and hear me. We definitely appreciate all of your attendance today, and I think all the panelists who are here with me who are definitely talking about a topic that is very serious. And as parents, as neighbors, as friends, as community members, there are a lot of things that we are facing when it does come to our teens. But the lucky and good news is that we as an agency, and a lot of amazing agencies across this county, are doing a lot of wonderful work to help us address some of these issues and support our youth who may be experiencing some adverse experiences or unhealthy behaviors in their relationships. So that being said, as we're out in the community, as we're giving the HEART presentation in our high schools during our 40-hour training with the community, a lot comes up for our parents and our adults who want to know, how do I support my teen? Or for our teachers, for our professors who want to know, how can I act as a bystander? How can I be there, and what can I do? So the HEART program, we are very happy to say, is in its 15th year. It's its 15th birthday at Laura's House, as Margaret had mentioned, and all those wonderful milestones that you saw in the video, those are huge markers of success that we've had with this program and the expansion that's been in place. So back in 2005, Loras House developed the HEART program, which stands for Healthy Emotions and Attitudes in Relationships Today. And the goal of this program was really to give us a way to reach our young people, to help them understand the dynamics of healthy and unhealthy relationships, so that by the time they were adults, and just as Don had mentioned with his own daughter, when they were navigating their own intimate or personal relationships with their dating partners, that they would have the ability to understand and identify the red flags so that they could either safety plan, figure out how to leave the relationship, or how to make the relationship one that's more suited for them. So this program has been really instrumental in giving our youth the tools to be able to navigate these relationships and get the help and access to resources that they need. That being said, the program itself, the presentation itself, has morphed and modified over the years so that we can meet our kiddos where they are. Part of that change has been in the communication style. We definitely use a lot of media. We help them understand social media. We've incorporated a text line now because we know that for our kids, that mode of communication is extremely comfortable and it's what they're utilizing. So with everything that you heard so far on this panel, we definitely want to leave you with some tangible items and to-dos and things that you can do so that you feel empowered in addressing some of the issues that have been highlighted and stated. Now, in this work, we hear the terms trauma-informed care quite a bit. So if you haven't heard the words trauma-informed care, all that means is that going into this work as either an advocate, as a supporter, as a community member, as a parent, just going in with an open mind, with an open heart, and understanding that these experiences that our kids are facing, that our college students are facing, you know, they're not unique. And a lot of the time they're tied to some other experiences and other things that might have been going on. So as a parent, as a friend, as a loved one, as a teacher, we do ask that when you go in and when you talk with young people or your kids, to be open to listening. I know that it's hard when we're addressing someone and they seem closed off, or maybe they're going to judge us, or they're not going to be approve of my decisions or my behaviors. We definitely want to create an environment where this person feels safe, where they know that what they share is going to be received with love and it's going to be met with some really great solutions. So that's what we encourage for our parents, to be open. The next thing is to listen without judgment, to take in some of the other experiences that they might be having, because there might be some other ways that you can help support them as well. Maybe they're struggling with pressure at school. Maybe they're struggling with being bullied, or their friend group, or whatever it may be. But we obviously know that having that listening ear and being a strong advocate is really essential. And the next thing is be reliable, be a support for them. Let them know that you are going to be there no matter what it is that they have to share, whatever it is that they have to say, no matter how scary it may seem. And I know on the receiving end as a parent myself, some of these conversations are very hard and they're not always things that we want to hear. But we know that having the parent's impact is just as important as it is as having us as advocates and as teachers, as preventionists out in the community, to have your support as well and having you feel strong and empowered in supporting your kids. Some ways that we definitely want our teachers, our parents, our community members to get prepared is to educate yourself. Maybe take a few minutes to take a look at the Loras House Teen website and see, you know, what is teen dating violence? What do these red flags look like? As Veronica mentioned, someone had heard her presentation, knew what the red flags were, and they were able to identify those within their coworker and their child and what they've been sharing with them. So understanding the dynamics of red flags, of sometimes what we call green light and red lights in dating relationships, having trust and building trust within the relationship with your child is going to help them be more open and want to share with you. And I think sometimes if you are educating yourself, it's a great way to open that door to sharing what you're learning with them. I already kind of mentioned safety, but safety in this way is familiarizing yourself with what a safety plan may look like. Is there a safe relative or community member or an organization such as Loras House where you can refer them to or get some extra support or assistance if you need? And the last thing that we encourage is empathy, empathizing with their children, empathizing with their struggles, with everything that they're facing. I mean, they are bombarded day in and day out with messaging on social media, by their peer group, their friend group. And a lot of these experiences are hard for them. Also, there are things that they're not that easy to navigate. So we do our best as preventionists. We love the HEART program and the impact that it definitely has had on our kids. 94% of teens who have been in the HEART workshop say, you know what, now I know what a healthy relationship looks like. Now I know where I get to get help. And now I know what resources are available for me. So I've been lucky enough to be a part of this program for the last 6.5 years, and to watch the growth and the reach that it now has is tremendous. So if anyone is needing any additional support, in finding ways and exploring ways that they can support their kids, our community members at large, or just young people in general, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will now turn it over to the entire panel for questions.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And we ran just a little over, but I don't think anyone minds because that information that you guys gave us was off the hook. Thank you so much. And we're just have time for about 2 questions. So I'm going to go ahead. And we did have someone that weighed in, to Sheriff Barnes, and they want to know, what was that computer program that you were able to install on your daughter's computer and cell phone so that you can help monitor her correspondence with individuals?
Yeah, thanks for that. I know I listed some in the PowerPoint slide. It's been so long ago. This is probably 2011, 12, and I can't remember the exact program. If I can find it, I will share it with Laura's House. But I know they're out there that you can find. I just can't remember the exact name. It was a subscription base, so you had to purchase it and have it installed on her phone and also on her her laptop that she used for school. So I just can't remember. I know there's several of them. I listed some in my PowerPoint presentation. I don't have them in front of me right now, but they're out there. I know that you can get them. They're pretty. It's a great investment. That's all I can tell you. And I don't remember the specific program I used.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. And Dr. Cruz, I'm going to bring you in. I know that we still are going to be dealing with some distant learning and this, at least in the fall. So how do programs like Laura's House, where they were always in person, how do we actually get these programs into the school? What does that look like?
Right now during the COVID-19, is that where you're?
Yes, exactly, during COVID-19.
So what school districts did, what we did is we transitioned to telehealth services. So we are creating programs or transitioning programs that we do on campus, in person, to now doing it telehealth or individual or group work. So that's still something that we were hoping to be able to do. We need to do both because we're going to come back in a hybrid model.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because we didn't want to keep you guys too much over. Just a quick reminder, you're going to be given takeaways from each of the presenters. But the common thread takeaway, honestly, that I got was parents, be brave, be courageous, dare to get into your child's technology devices, monitor them. You block the front door. If you allow them to have cell phones and computers in their bedrooms, just know you might have gotten out the riffraff from the neighborhood, but you're letting the world into their bedroom. So be wise. And then we're also invite you to stay with us because we're going to do some awards and then wrap all of this up. A hearty thank you to all of our panelists. You gave us so much information that was just little gold nuggets that we're going to be able to take for the rest of our lives and hopefully even to our grandchildren. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and yield the floor to our next presenter.
Sorry.
Thank you all for that wonderful insight. Learning from experts like our panel members today help all of us be more aware of what we can do to keep ourselves and our children safe. We now have the privilege to honor some very special individuals who've shown exemplary commitment to helping support and foster healthy relationships, healthy self-esteem, strong character, philanthropy, and leadership in our community. Our Brighter Futures honorees have been committed to supporting the mission of Laura's House, creating brighter futures for youth, and for that we are very grateful. Please welcome back Patty to introduce our first honoree.
Our first Brighter Futures Award this afternoon recognizes an incredible youth leader. It is my pleasure to recognize our Brighter Futures 2020 Youth Leader Award honoree, Michaela Arnaldi. Each year, we set out to recognize an outstanding youth leader who exemplifies leadership, advocacy, and passion for teen dating abuse prevention. Michaela is an inspiring and outstanding young woman committed to breaking the cycle of dating abuse and domestic violence and creating awareness amongst her peers. A volunteer since 2018, Michaela has demonstrated her commitment to service by volunteering her time and energy to support Laura's House and further domestic violence prevention work of the agency. As a sophomore at St. Margaret's Episcopal School in San Juan Capistrano, Michaela took on the role of community service leader for her advisory. From there, she took it to the next level, raising awareness about teen dating violence both on and off school campus and seeking out service opportunities to support our mission. Among her efforts were volunteering at the resale store and corporate office with her advisory group, educating her own school community on teen dating domestic violence and upcoming Laura's House events, holding a bake sale at her school to benefit the agency, and more. Michaela has been extremely active in the arts program at her school for 13 years and also dedicates over 100 hours of community service in the arts department during the summer, as it is something she loves to do. She has also recently earned a Head of School Honors academic achievement and maintains a high GPA. Congratulations, Michaela, for inspiring your peers as a leader and all of us.
Hello, my name is Michaela Arnoldi, and I will be entering my junior year of high school at St. Margaret's Episcopal School in San Juan Capistrano. Now, first and foremost, I want to start off by saying thank you to those of you who have put time aside today to sit on your computers and virtually attend this luncheon. I wish that I was able to see all of your faces in person, but I'm extremely grateful that this was able to be brought to a remote environment. When I found out that I was receiving this award, I was absolutely shocked. It's truly a privilege and honor to represent my generation during this event. But I want you guys to know that there is no way I earned this alone. I was constantly surrounded by the support of others to keep me going. One of those was the best people in my entire life, my amazing mother, and also driver to multiple Laura's House events and meetings. She's seriously the best part of my life every single day. Another one of these was my advisor, Masami Starr, and I am forever grateful for her. I took on the leadership role in my advisory, planning our community service trips to Laura's House. But she didn't stop me there. She let me take an idea and run with it. I was able to take my advisory to the corporate office, create bake sales, educate the students of my school, and so much more. But the people that I need to thank most are actually every single one of you. We are currently in some very difficult circumstances, especially for those that are in an abusive relationship. In fact, from the week of March 16th, there was a 40% increase in Laura's House crisis hotline calls. But did this stop the Laura's House community in any way? Absolutely not. Everyone came back stronger, faster, and harder than ever. There was a text messaging service enabled for domestic violence reports or concerns, virtual education workshops for both teens and adults, the Laura's House eBay page, the Amazon wish list, and the list goes on forever and ever. Now you see, this is why I fell in love with Laura's House from the start. This isn't a group of employees and volunteers working to get the job done. This is a family becoming closer and closer every day as we all continue to do what we love to do so much. Of course, I have to add, I am not the only one that has volunteered at my school. I definitely owe a huge thank you and appreciation for all of my advisees. I wouldn't be standing here without you guys. From sorting clothes in rainbow order with Aaron, to phone calls with Andrea, to the Swallows Day Parade with Molly, I found a deeper and deeper meaning behind the things that I was doing. So with all this experience that I've gained, where do I go from here? My number one objective for the future is to decrease the gap between domestic violence awareness and everyday activities. There shouldn't be a negative connotation or shift when we bring up topics involving Laura's House or domestic violence in a conversation. Yes, it's a very serious topic, but it's something that everybody needs to know about, and that applies to all age groups as well. In efforts of bridging the concepts of awareness with our daily lives, I think it starts with drawing connections, holding a fundraiser or a bake sale somewhere that you go every week, or maybe taking something that you're passionate about and raising funds for the Laura's House community while still doing something that you love. I want to establish more of these connections and establish more opportunities for people like you. Together, we can all join hands and make even more of a difference than we already have. Laura's House is one of the best things that I ever could have done, and it will remain a part of me for a lifetime. There will always be a special place in my heart for Laura's House, and it can never be replaced. So again, Thank you to every single one of you for everything. There's no way that I could have done any of this without you guys.
As we have seen, it takes leadership and commitment to inspire others to want to make a change. Our next honoree exemplifies just that. Over the years, we have seen the requests for our HEART program continue to grow, and being on campuses, we have seen the great need and demand for education surrounding teen dating abuse, red flags, and healthy relationships. What we noticed in this instruction was not mandatory or part of school curriculum. As a result of the tragic death of her sister from domestic violence, Sonia was committed to ensuring that this education be received in the classrooms. Thanks to Sonia's crusade and Assemblyman Jim Frazier's AB 643, instruction on how to recognize early warning signs of adolescent relationship abuse and intimate partner violence is now law, implemented into health education for 9th graders, which began in the 2018-19 school year. Sonia has been a partner and friend of Laura's House, joining forces to ensure that all youth have access to this education and the opportunity to learn healthy relationships free of violence. The 2020 Brightest Futures Award goes to our friend and advocate, Sonia McClellan.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I am deeply honored and to receive this award. It's actually very cool and actually really heavy, but it's so cool, especially shaped as a heart. I really appreciate receiving this and honored. It's been a journey. I have many people, to thank that has helped me along the way. Laura's House has been a huge part of my journey, along with my family, along with Assembly Member Jim Frazier. And specifically, I want to give a little shout out to Jennifer Ponce and Andrea McAllister, because we've built a friendship and through the HEART program, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I appreciate them and their friendship and the partnership we've had together, and the continued support that they give me with continuing my efforts for educating youth. Just a little bit about my sister's story and my journey, which began in 1989. I was 14 years old. My sister was 24, and she started dating a man. His name was John, for about a year, until one day, as she was trying to leave, getting out of the relationship. It wasn't a long relationship, but she was ready to get out of it. They got into a verbal argument, and he ended up shooting her in the back of the head as she was grabbing her shoes in her closet. He then grabbed her, put her on the bed, actually then wrapped her body in tarp, put a transmission around her, and threw her over the San Mateo Bridge, which was in the Bay Area, because I am in Northern California. That's where he grew up. And eventually he was arrested, convicted, second-degree murder, served 27 years. And then unfortunately, he just got released in 2018. After he was convicted, as years went on, again, I was 14 years old when this happened, but when I was in my mid-20s, I went to John's first parole hearing. And sitting there, if you haven't been to a parole hearing before, sitting there, you listen to what happened. They go over the story. They kind of make you, unfortunately, relive what happened. They get into the transcripts. I was actually too young, being 14 years old, to go to the trial. So I had no clue at the time. I was, we were trying to figure out why this happened and trying to just move on after the trial and my family. And so there were several signs as I was, as I got older and started going to the parole hearings, that I discovered. And we've always wondered, my family, how did this happen? Why did he murder my sister? So after years of going to parole hearings, I think we went to probably 10 through this whole time until he got released. I was doing some research, like I said, looking at transcripts, trying to figure out what was going on, because he clearly, he didn't know, he didn't realize at the time or admitting it, that he was very controlling. Signs of abuse that we discovered, and hindsight's 2020. Big thing is he isolated her from her family. Never wanted to be around us. Never wanted to be around my mom and dad. Very controlling where she was, who she was with, when she was coming back. We might think it's a little thing, but it's really not a little thing. But one of the things is he didn't want her to wear nail polish. He said it was too sexy. So things that, I looked back, and things that in the trial that her friends were saying that he would do, that at the time in 1989, it was such a taboo thing, the domestic violence and stuff like this. So it wasn't really shown until later on that this was clearly a domestic violence issue. And then I knew I wanted to do something. So when my daughter, so again, after years of going to his parole hearings, learning more and more about domestic violence and red flags, and my daughter, she's actually 22 right now, but when she was in 9th grade, she was talking about a health class that was required, and she's my first. So this was a new experience with high school and dating and all that. And she said she really liked this health class, and she wanted. And I asked her, I said, what do you guys talk about? And she said, we talk about healthy eating, drug abuse, stuff like that. And I think that is when the first time like a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, I think this is where we need to start, and it needs to start with our kids. And I was seeing her, interaction with boys and stuff like that. And so I was involved in a domestic violence locally here in my community, went to a fundraiser where I met Assembly Member Jim Frazier. And I told him my idea about how I thought we needed to mandate this type of education in our public schools, and about this issue, and we need to bring awareness to young people as it starts at a very young age and when they start dating. And he agreed with me. He said he liked the idea and proposed the bill. So in January 2017, I did my research and I proposed a bill. And my bill was actually chosen by his office. I know they get hundreds every year. And I was honored that he thought it was such an important thing that he chose it. So my 9-month journey began at that point. And I needed to get support from different community leaders and organizations, and including Laura's House, who gave me such a huge response. And I saw them on an episode of Dr. Phil. I love Dr. Phil, I will admit that. So I saw them on an episode, and I said, I'm going to reach out, because they're obviously a huge organization and does great work. I did some investigation on them, and actually called Jennifer Ponce, and she talked and got back to me right away, and really appreciate her doing that. And they were just a huge support for that they were one of the organizations that supported me. And then October 2017, Governor Brown signed AB 643 into law. That amended the health code for education to include mandating children to learn what a healthy relationship looks like. And it went through all the committees really well, the Assembly side, the Senate side. It was in the last, I think it was one of the committees, I can't remember, one of the committees in the Senate. And there was an organization called Right to Life who was actually opposing the bill. And they asked me to come speak on the Senate floor, and I got to do that and tell my sister's story, which was really scary, but it was also really cool that I got to do that and share my sister's story and my journey and why this bill matters so much to me. I knew we needed a platform. I knew we needed, because teachers see our kids all the time and for many, many hours during the day. And I knew we needed them to help me with this. So, and we can't expect them to train or know how to deal with this issue so I knew I needed to start there. And now going on with my journey, I'm currently creating a nonprofit and it's called Smart Start, and it's just going to be, based out here in Northern California, where I am, where I think I would like to train facilitators to give the HEART program, because I fell in love with the HEART program. So saw it several times. I wish, and I'm still probably going to try to do it, is try to get another bill to where the HEART program is curriculum in our schools. But it's such a unique workshop, and I loved it. And so my journey right now is to get some facilitators. So when that module in the health class comes in, not to have the teachers teach it, but have people that are trained to come in and teach this to our children and give this workshop. And then also involve some community resources and law enforcement to help with that as well. So that's what I'm currently, kind of my next journey now. And then I've also like to, with the nonprofit, in honor of my sister, to give a scholarship to somebody in high school that has, kind of like Michaela, that kind of takes the reins and helps continue this education with clubs or something in the community. So that is pretty much my story. I know we're short in time, so I just want to thank Laura's House again for honoring me and continuing to support me, and continuing doing what they're doing, because it's so important. And I know if my sister got this workshop and was sitting in the classroom listening to this, that it could have saved her life. And I know Laura's House has been saving lots of lives for many years, and I hope I can continue this in Northern California and also teach and be a one-on-one with these kids, so we can get this relationship to them and show them how a healthy relationship looks like, and so we can stop the cycle of domestic violence. So show my award again, but thank you so much. I so appreciate it and look forward to our partnership and going forward.
We have seen through Laura's House HEART program that with powerful prevention efforts, we can effectively teach youth about healthy relationships and teen dating abuse prevention. As you have heard today, with that intervention, resources and support, we can create brighter futures for our youth. We ask each of you today to consider supporting our prevention efforts. On our bidding platform, you will see different donation levels that you might consider. Our goal is to raise $100,000 today. The good news is that the first $20,000 raised today through donations will be matched by Laura Curry. This year, most especially with the lower expense of the virtual event, your dollar goes very far to support our prevention programming. If you feel inspired to give, please do so, and know that your donations today will make a significant impact on youth right here in Orange County. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
We hope you enjoyed the program. Our auction is now closing. Our opportunity drawings winners will be drawn and winners announced. All auction and opportunity drawing winners will be contacted to coordinate pickup and delivery of their items. Let's, for now though, go with the raffle. Let's see, opportunity drawing number 1 is the South Coast Plaza shopping opportunity, and that goes to Carrie Strunk. Congratulations, Carrie. Secondly, we have opportunity drawing number 2, the Orange Twist package, and our winner is Melissa Olson. Our third drawing is the Audi Mission Viejo package with the Harvey seatbelt purse, and that winner is Brenda Ortega Villarreal. And finally, our opportunity drawing number 4 is the Night Out or In package, and that is our winner on that one is Sarah Lou Giusti. Congratulations to all our opportunity drawing winners. Our silent auction is now closing. You'll receive a message on your mobile device if you have won an item, and it will prompt you to check out online. As members of the Brighter Futures Event Committee, we thank you all for being with us today for our 5th annual Brighter Futures event. We hope to see you in person next year. If you'll be interested in getting more involved or being on the planning committee with us, please let us know. You're going to receive a follow-up email today with results, key panelist takeaways, and Anissa's mocktail recipe. Thank you so much for your generosity and support of our mission. We are looking forward to seeing you all next year.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Castellan. I just wanted to say I'm actually a prevention education intern here at Laura's House and a student at Cal State Fullerton. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who's joining us today at our 5th annual Brighter Future event. We are extremely grateful of your support on our prevention education programs. Your support will truly continue to make an impact on the lives of the youth here in Orange County. Once again, thank you.
And west of all. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a bopping and a singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, rockin' Robin, tweet. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we really gonna rock tonight. Every little swallow, every chickadee, every little bird in the tall oak tree, the wise old owl, the big black crow, flap of their wings, sing and go, bird, go. Rockin' Robin, rock, rock, rockin' Robin. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we really gonna rock tonight. Slow. A pretty little raven at the birdman stand taught him how to do the bop, and it was grand. They started going steady and bless my soul. He out-bopped the buzzard and the oriole. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a bopping and a singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, rock, rock, rockin' Robin, tweet. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Well, the pretty little raven at the birdman stand taught him how to do the bop, and it was grand. They started going steady and bless my soul. He out-bopped the buzzard and the oriole. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a bopping and a singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, rock, rock, rockin' Robin. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight.